We're following a still developing story this morning. The nation is grieving with Minnesota after the shootings of two Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses.
Now, 57-year-old Vance Boelter, who police believe is the shooter, was caught and arrested this after a 2-day manhunt. Authorities tracked him to rural Sibley County, where they say they saw him run into the woods, and ultimately this led to his arrest.
After a 2-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Boelter. That's 48 hours that law enforcement involved in a complex and dangerous manhunt. Spent Father's Day away from their families to deliver justice for Melissa and Mark Hortman and their children who spent this Father's Day alone.
Our Bear Leone joining us now from the state capitol, where, Bear, we can see behind you that growing memorial stands in honor of the lawmakers.
Yeah, Minnesotans are breathing a collective sigh of relief this morning with this arrest, and you can feel it here at the Capitol. You can see it with that growing memorial you mentioned behind me, flowers, mementos, cards, all honoring the life of Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. We even saw someone this morning stop by, take photos, and get rather emotional. So this tragedy has affected so many lives. Now, Vance Boelter's arrest capped off what law enforcement is calling the largest manhunt in Minnesota history, and that arrest, that was a mammoth effort. Law enforcement broke down what that looked like last night. We were there when Boelter's abandoned car was found about an hour southwest of the cities, not far from where he lived in Green Isle. Hundreds of law enforcement came to the area. Officials say they spent hours using unmanned aerial vehicles, the State Patrol helicopter, and infrared technology to spot their suspect. And after several hours of searching, law enforcement found Boelter in the woods and called out to them. They believe he acted alone.
And this is a very dangerous individual for our community, and that's why so many resources and such a great collaboration came together to focus on removing him from society so that we can restore some sort of calm and bring some healing to our community and to our state. Now begins the hard work of looking at what the motive is, looking at putting this case together, and so that's yet to come.
So while their suspect is in custody, like we just heard, the job is far from over. They now will turn to motive, which potentially could take weeks. We do know that police found a list of potential targets inside his vehicle outside the Hortman family home. And on it, several individuals in and outside of Minnesota, including abortion rights advocates and abortion facilities. So law enforcement tells us that he did give up peacefully, and he was booked into Hennepin County Jail around 1 o'clock this morning. Of course, this is a developing story. We also know he faces multiple charges.
Right, and is expected in court today at 1:30. Barrett, thank you. Now today, a chance to honor the lives that were lost in this senseless act of violence, as well as give communities that happened to these events a place to heal. There's a community prayer service. This will be held in Brooklyn Park, and it's a moment to gather and pray for both Champlin and Brooklyn Park and read scriptures. That's at Grace Fellowship. That'll be at 7 o'clock tonight. Now, we do want to take some time to go through what led up to the arrest of Vance Boelter.
A 2-day manhunt had many of us on edge, so here's a look at everything we know so far. The search for him, it wound its way to a remote area in Sibley County, about 10 minutes from Boelter's home in Green Isle. We've mapped out the location, and then across the metro from Champlin, where it all started. So let's take you back to the very beginning. This is 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Champlin police learned that State Senator John Hortman and his wife Yvette were shot. They activated other departments, including Brooklyn Park Police, you see highlighted on your screen. At 3:35 a.m., that's when they found House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, shot in their home. They both died. We understand officers exchanged gunfire with the man they now believe to be Vance Boelter, but he got away, and that's when the manhunt began. And then just before 11 o'clock Sunday morning, one of his vehicles found near Highway 25 in Sibley County.
And now that vehicle was abandoned. We do have video of it here. Our crew was on scene yesterday capturing these images. This is the car pulled over on the side of the gravel road. Here also the cowboy hat that we talked so much about on Saturday. You can see in the side-by-side comparison, this cowboy hat does match the one that Boelter was seen wearing the morning after the shootings.
In Sibley County, it's a rural area. It's about 60 miles southwest from where the shootings took place. An emergency alert Sunday morning told everyone living in that area, which is technically Faxon Township, to keep their doors locked and their vehicles secured.
None of us are scared. This is just strange. You know, you might disagree with somebody, but you don't shoot them.
Last night around 10 o'clock, we learned Boelter had been found in a field in Sibley County, taken into custody. Federal investigators are now taking part in this investigation. He's being charged with the shootings and also for running from police.
As we mentioned, we've been telling you about this morning. We learned that law enforcement stopped Boelter's wife. This was north of the metro on Saturday morning. The Mille Lacs County Sheriff says that his office assisted with a stop in Onamia. It's about 90 minutes north of the Twin Cities. The sheriff says that his staff reported several other relatives in the vehicle as well. We are told that they did not search or question any of them. Now, this morning, we are hearing from lawmakers who knew and worked with Melissa Hortman closely during her 2 decades in the Minnesota legislature.
She's being remembered as one of the most impactful leaders in state history by both Republicans and Democrats. Our Pauline Lee joins us from the newsroom with some of those reflections. Pauline?
Yeah, those who knew her closely say that she loved Minnesota with all of her heart and gave it everything she could. She now leaves a profound legacy of doing just that. Among those remembering Hortman is Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin, who says the two became fast friends back in 2000. Hortman built bipartisan bridges to pass bills and earn respect from colleagues across the aisle, like former GOP Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka, who says they shared a real friendship. Both say aside from her work leading to some major progressive policy wins like codifying abortion rights, paid family leave, free school meals for kids, she will be remembered as someone who worked to find common ground with others.
We understood from being honorable towards each other and integrity and speaking the truth, we could actually find that narrow place where both of us could agree. And I couldn't do that with a number of other leaders.
But Speaker Hortman looked across the aisle and didn't see her political opponents, right? She saw people who ran for office for the same reason she did, which was to make a difference in the lives of Minnesotans.
And working across the aisle also meant not always getting what you wanted. We also heard from Minnesota Representative Angie Craig, who remarked on the tough decisions Hortman had to make, the most recent just last week when she sided with Republicans and voted to remove undocumented immigrant adults from the state's health program. She said it was not a decision she wanted to make, but did it to help pass the budget. And we all remember that interview, guys. She was so emotional as she explained her decision, such a tough decision personally that she had to make.
Yeah. Certainly was, and just one of the things that people will remember her for, among the things that she accomplished during her time in office. Pauline Lee with that update. Pauline, thank you. Well, Saturday's shooting adds to an alarming spike in nationwide political violence.
Here in Minnesota, the legislature, we know now, more divided than ever, but during this moment, there's a call for unity.
I think that we are at a tipping point, and we could either tip forward into more violence or we could take a step back. And I hope desperately, for the sake of everybody's safety and also for the sake of our democracy, that we take a step back and we remove this.
So as Minnesota continues to mourn the passing of Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark, there are signs of hope from Senator Hoffman and his wife, Yvette.
Senator Amy Klobuchar shared a message from Yvette where they were each shot several times, but they are closer every hour to being out of the woods. She says Senator John Hoffman was hit 9 times, enduring many surgeries. Yvette was hit 8 times. Senator Klobuchar said the two are devastated by the loss of Melissa and Mark. The Hoffman shared with us an update just last night.
They said, quote, "We continue our healing journey and are humbled by the outpouring of love and support our family has received from across the state and our nation. There is never a place for senseless political violence and the loss of life." Now, we, of course, will continue to cover this developing story both on air and online. You can find it through WCCO.com all throughout the morning.